Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. I am Miss Jenny, and I am your astrologer. Today's video is looking at the natal chart or personality profile, psychological profile of Carlee Russell, as well as the predictive work in terms of what was going on in the stars around the time of this abduction in her chart, as well as what she's looking at facing moving forward now that she's really made herself famous for all the wrong reasons. So let's take a look. Okay, so before we get started, I want to add a few footnotes here. So the first thing is we don't know who she was with, why she did this, where she went. There's a whole lot missing from this story. All we have is what the Hoover, Alabama police were so generously giving to us based on her internet searches on her phone. Boy, was that damning. As well as the limited statement that's been given to the police originally. And we just don't have a lot. There's a whole lot of big missing holes in this story and the explanation about what happened. So, because I've been avoiding doing this, but now I have to. So I pulled up her natal chart. There is no time of birth available online. So we're only going with her date of birth and her place of birth as Hoover, because Alabama, because most people don't move too far from their place of birth. And even if she, I don't know, was born in, I don't know, India, she's in Hoover now, so there's still some gravity to her chart being relocated as being born in Hoover. It's a long explanation. Just bear with me. We're just going to assume she was born in or very close to Hoover. Now, here are the things that I believe. And these were the things that I was looking in the chart to see if we could find any corroboration or support for these theories. Because listen, I'm speculating right now just like everybody else. Until law enforcement finishes its job or she comes through with a statement that can be verified, we're all guessing. So the first thing, obviously, she didn't do this by herself. And there is the distinct possibility that there was a man involved. Ooh. Or it could be a man and a woman or a group of people. It could be literally a couple of friends, right, of mixed genders or sexes. I don't even know which word we're supposed to use these days. So we know she didn't do this alone, and I do not believe she did this alone. And I believe that she did this with the assistance, help, or encouragement and support of people around her who are involved in this. Now, here's the thing. It's been 6 or 7 days and she's literally not broken her silence. She's not talking, not for nothing. And because she is literally one of the most hated women on the planet right now, or certainly in this country, man, everybody. Nobody's got nothing, nobody has anything nice to say about her or to her, and with good reason, okay? So she's not safe leaving her house at this point. So you would think, like after 6 or 7 days, she'd want to at least clear the air, apologize, move on with life or something. But no, she's digging her heels in. She's not talking. So it occurred to me that there's the very distinct possibility that whoever assisted her with this might be more dangerous than public opinion and the police. So there's something to think about. And I'm saying this because while I was looking at the charts, I remembered a time I was a volunteer for a sexual assault hotline. And I had to go assist with one of the victims who had called. Now, I can't get into a lot of the details. And also, too, I can talk about this. I'm not identifying anybody. She's certainly not going to come out and say, oh, that was me. And this is certainly not so strange or unusual that it hasn't happened to other young girls. So I'm going to use her as an example. So this young girl apparently hooked up with this guy and snuck out of the house, and she was in her 20s. She was young. She was in her 20s because, in our 20s, we don't really have a lot of impulse control or world savvy because we're learning. So when she got there, come to find out that she basically got held hostage in the house for the evening. The guy had an ankle bracelet on, so he was on probation and under house arrest. And while she was in the house, come to find out there was another girl in the house that he was pimping. So I don't know how they were doing it, but that was the story. He was basically pimping her using the phone and the internet. And he was trying to turn her out. And she was like, oh no, kind of thing or whatever. And then at one point he decided he wanted to use her as a drug mule. So he literally made her, and he went with her, or the girl went with her, get into the car to go drop off a package at somebody's house behind their driveway. And, I'm pretty sure it was a drug drop, right? It wasn't McDonald's. And then this thing, and the other thing. And then, they went back to the house because where's she going to go? They're in the car with her. And of course, he raped her. And somehow or another, I don't remember how, but she managed to leave the house and keep going. And then, called the sexual assault hotline. And because she had snuck out, because her parents were very religious, she didn't want her parents to know. So they still didn't even know that she was gone, or what had happened. So here's the thing, right? This was a very sweet girl. She was not a bad girl. She's not, all about thug life or anything like that. But like a lot of nice girls, good girls, right? She's attracted to bad boys, especially at that age. In our 20s, we are not the smartest. We're not the smartest people on the planet. We might do well on test scores, but when it comes to life and common sense, we're still learning. So we're not the sharpest tools in the box when it comes to character judgment or, long-term thinking. And in our 20s, we're all attracted to, especially the good girls, ones who've been raised to be good girls, right? Especially if they've come from really strict backgrounds, they're always attracted to the bad boys, right? Because the bad boys and this criminal element, where this dangerous, it's more like a dangerous element, right? They represent adventure and power and independence and this like thumbing your nose at everything that's held you back, in your youth. So listen, we all go through it to varying degrees. And I'm looking at Carlee and I'm wondering, because apparently there's some suggestion that her parents are very religious, which is not really a surprise if she's grown up in the South, especially in Alabama, the land of cults. I'm wondering if some of this might be Carlee having hooked up with a bad boy who might be in some legal trouble already. Maybe he's already under probation. Maybe he's got a criminal background. Maybe he's got a criminal history, or whatever it is. But she's a little concerned about him retaliating more than getting involved with the police. Although I'm sure that's a concern too. So double indemnity here. Why make things worse? And I think that might be why she's not talking to the cops. Because if she talks to cops, she's going to have to throw a whole bunch of people under the bridge or under the bus, or at least one person. And I think she may be afraid of what that person will do, because as is, the general public at large is already out for blood, for this nonsense. So there's that. So I think that's what happened. I think she hooked up with a quote unquote bad boy and they hatched this stupid plot. God only knows why. And, everything went sideways pretty quickly, which is not unexpected considering where Saturn is transiting right now to her chart. Because remember, Saturn in Pisces right now is the planet of big karma. And boy, she's getting it. And of course, now everything's just blown open like a bomb. Everything's just exploded and it's completely spinning out of control. And I suspect she has some hookup or new group of friends that she recently got involved with that will absolutely find her and make sure she never tells tall tales again if she turns them in. Just saying. That's what I think. So let's look at the chart and look at the fame markers in the chart to see what might be in her chart that would indicate that she would rise to such a level of fame and notoriety so quickly. All right, so Carlee Russell is an interesting study because she is literally, at this point, someone who would have been destined to live a life of obscurity and, just basic, boring, everyday, common Joe kind of life for the rest of her life. But now, as of July 13th and her disappearance, air quotes, disappearance, she is infamous. She is notorious. She is famous. People know her name. They know what she looks like. They're not going to forget. And unfortunately for her, thanks to the police department trolling her in the most amazing, damning way, and sharing with the public what they found on her internet searches, which were really damning in terms of what level of character she is. I don't think this girl is ever going to be able to get a job doing much more than dog walking, and if she's lucky, maybe she'll find some poor guy who's willing to take her on and can see something good in her and is willing to support her for the rest of her life. But I don't see how anybody with half a brain would hire this girl literally for anything at this point, because she's not trustworthy, and as evidenced by her internet searches, and there's just a whole lot of poor judgment that seems to go with this girl. Anyway, so she's not in a great position. So here's the thing. Here's somebody who's basically nobody, and given the circumstances and connections and people around them and opportunities in their lifetime, the chance of them ever becoming famous or anything are slim to none. And yet, this same person, this one girl, has managed to overnight become an almost internationally known, certainly nationally known, instant celebrity, she's infamous in a very not good way. So what could possibly show us or reflect that? So let's take a look. All right, so this is her natal chart. I'm not going to get too much into her natal chart. I will say there's a lot of people who are looking for negative conclusions in the chart. So this is a thing, you guys need to know this, especially if you're going to do astrology. This is a thing called confirmation bias. And that is where we have an idea or a perspective or an opinion on something that we believe is true and or want to believe is true. And what will happen is we will seek out or look for or only pay attention to the things that support and confirm our biases. So astrology is very prone to this. So if we're already of the mind that Carlee Russell is this horrible, lying, awful person, right, and manipulative, if we want to believe that, when we look into the chart, it's very easy for us to find planetary aspects and signatures to kind of throw things together like a big sloppy goulash to confirm our already existing belief that she is these things. And I've seen a couple of astrologers do this already. And just for the record, before I get into this more, there was also another astrologer who's online apparently 6 days after Carlee disappeared. You know, that end of the week when we were all pretty much like, the girl is lying. She's clearly lying. The astrologer 6 days later now jumps on the bad one and says, yeah, I knew it. She was lying. And then proceeds to throw up a bunch of, like, you know, beef stew ingredient planetary aspects and say, oh, look at this aspect and that aspect and that aspect. She's a liar. I'm not a fan of that kind of approach to astrology. I think it's very damning and dangerous, and this is why many of us will never be taken seriously in this profession. I'm just saying. So that really got under my craw. So I'm not going to get too much in the chart. We're going to avoid matters of character because, again, I've said it before, I will say it again. You cannot tell what a person's character development is by looking at their chart. Character is a choice. It is not fate. Character is not necessarily how you're born as much as who you choose to become. And we can't predict that in a chart. Well, according to, as far as I can tell, maybe other people like this, you know, walking truth lie detector astrologer, maybe she can tell. So here we go. So the first thing I want you guys to take notice of, let me get a pen here. We're going to use green. Is sudden sharp rises to fame. Well, looky here. She has Venus on the fixed star Regalis. You know, Regalis, that fixed star everybody likes to attribute to Donald Trump to explain his rise up the ranks, which honestly, it's not Regalis. That's not what it was. But anyway, Carlee is an excellent study or example of Regalis active in a chart, regardless of where it's sitting, that elevates a person, right? Suddenly, like brings them up, you know, above the masses to a position of celebrity or fame. She carries Venus at 29 Leo. So she's there on the degree of Regalis, and this is exactly what's happened. She has become an instant celebrity for all the wrong reasons. So for those of you who are looking at your chart like, ooh, do I have Regalis somewhere on my chart? You might, but as these things go, remember, you could end up being famous for all the wrong reasons. So be careful what you ask for. I'm pretty sure Carlee never in her entire young 25 years of life thought that she would become famous for the rest of her life for something like this. Okay, so there's that, right? Now, the other thing I want you guys to take a look at is at the age of 25, there's a thing called solar arc progression. We basically move everything, every angle and every planet 1 degree for every year of life. She's 25 years old right now. And that means that her ascendant, using the solar arc method, her ascendant would be sitting at 0 Capricorn right now as we speak. And why is this important? Because 0 Aries is called the Aries point. Any planet, any cardinal planet, any planet or angle that sits at the cardinal degrees of 0 Aries, 0 Aries, Libra, Capricorn, or Cancer. When that gets triggered, these are typically things that suddenly propel you into very conspicuous presence. So one can expect to become famous or suddenly find yourself engaged with the world at large around you in ways that are not normal for you, right? Or 0 Aries, right? Fame, celebrity, being well known, right? Or awards and recognition. You might find yourself getting awards or recognition at the time that the 0 Aries degree is triggered in the chart alongside of whatever planet you have that's also connected to that 0 Aries degree or the Aries point. She's carrying her solar arc ascendant. If we move it around this year, it would have gone to 0 Capricorn, which sits on that 0 Aries point. So I thought that was interesting. Now, also too, what's happening this year, and certainly right now around her birthday, because her birthday was July 22nd. We're heading into her birthday. One of the things that's happening is Venus in the solar return is sitting on her Venus here in the natal chart on the fixed star Regalis, and her lunar return for like this month, like July to August, June to July, covering this window of time that this supposed abduction occurred. Mars was conjuncting her Venus in the lunar return. So she's got a lot of activity happening as we speak right now. Now, before I go to the next slide, I know there's somebody looking at that big honkin' Pluto sitting on her ascendant, as well as the moon squaring it, and all those nefarious sort of things. So I'm just going to address this real quick. So first thing, she's got the Sun trine Pluto, which is more of a concern than Pluto being on the ascendant, or Pluto being involved in a T-square, because the Sun makes things easy. So with Sun trine Pluto, also too, this would indicate that this is somebody who is attracted to power. Like a lot of people, she's attracted to power. But in this lifetime, and by the way, this is a rectified time of birth. We don't know what her actual time of birth is. I'm literally guessing that this is it because of the other things in the other charts. With Sun trine Pluto, you have people who are not only attracted to power, but also they generate power. They can generate a lot of support around themselves. They're fascinated by issues and matters of power. And also with this Sun trine Pluto, she would have also found herself being pulled into environments and groups and relationships with people who wield power in some way at some level. And listen, it all sounds good until you realize we're talking about maybe ending up the mistress of President Putin, or, pick one, Trump. Okay. So there's that. Now she also carries a Moon, Venus, Pluto T-square with Pluto as the leg. So what that also indicates is in this lifetime, she's got some major dynamic evolutionary growth she's going to have to go through, as well as some very deep karmic developmental lessons, and they all have to do with relationships and values. And I'm thinking, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking this whole episode and the fallout from it is very much about a major karmic spiritual lesson for her about why it's important in her life for her to examine matters of values and relationships and the types of people we pull in around ourselves. So I'm just saying. All right, let's move forward. I want to keep this video really, really short. I want to look at the forecast rather than the natal. I just want to say, as far as the natal goes, if anybody tries to give some business about how awful she is based on our chart, no, there are some things in here that are not great, and I'm not going to get into them because they really have a lot to do with very deep personal issues that I don't feel like sharing with the rest of the world. She's already got enough on her plate that she's going to have to deal with. But what I will say is that she's very charming. She's very charming, but she's not as bad as people are going to make her out to be right now. Everybody's really mad, so she's getting the short end of this. But also too, and we're going to talk about this in a second, remember, she couldn't do this by herself. Somebody helped her, and I'm much more interested in who the person might be that's been helping her. Okay, so this is the progress chart for Carlee on July 13th, 2023 in Hoover, Alabama, when she disappeared or was abducted. Now, some real very quick general information about progress charts. With progressed charts, using specific mathematical calculations, what we're looking at is a snapshot of what planets and planetary aspects are doing at specific times on the timeline or in your life, right? Progress charts don't really tell us a lot unless something very specific changes signs or comes to an angle, or an angle changes, which makes sense because our lives are typically filled with a whole lot of boring, tedious stuff, right? And then every now and then you have that exciting, game-changing moment in your life. And progress charts reflect that as well. So not every day is an exciting lottery-winning day. A lot of times it's just housekeeping work. But then you have those moments where, you know, the script is flipped and everything sort of changes. So with her, obviously July 13th was a big flip the script day. Geez Louise, talk about your life being turned upside down. In her particular case, certainly not in the way she was expecting. So we're going to look at this day to see, and also to check to see if the rectified time that we're using for her chart might be correct, what was happening that day. So here's something interesting. When we look at her rectified, when we looked at the progressed chart for her rectified chart, look at this. Neptune is exactly on the ascendant. Now, right here, it's showing a few minutes of difference. But remember, like, it's really, we're rectifying, it's tough to get these things exact. So I apologize that it's not exact down to the second, but it's less than a minute apart. So we're good with this. At the same time that this is happening, Venus has also just changed signs within a couple of days. And look at where Venus is. Venus is on the Aries point. Remember, the Aries point is 0 degrees Aries. So any cardinal sign, right? Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn at 0 degrees is considered on the Aries point. And her Venus hit that Aries point right about, like, within a couple of days of progressed Neptune coming to the ascendant on July 13th, when she vanished from the interstate. So that's pretty, I'm feeling good about this. This is giving me some confidence that we might actually have the right rectified time for her. So that tells us a lot. Now with Neptune, on a progressed ascendant, with Neptune coming to the ascendant like that, Neptune in the first house is bad enough. Neptune coming to the ascendant, just, it's horrible. Well, it's not horrible. It's challenging. it's challenging. So we know that with Neptune on the ascendant, in a progressed chart, there's always issues with judgment. Like, it's almost like you're seeing the world through a kaleidoscope. So you're not seeing clear black and white images. Like, you're seeing like multi-universes happening at the same time. Neptune on the ascendant can be very challenging. And depending on what Neptune rules in your personal chart, will also tell us, okay, hang on. Now, Neptune in her rectified natal chart rules her 4th house. So Neptune coming to the ascendant suggests, obviously, a disappearance from the home, the desire to run away from home, right? The desire to escape home. And also sometimes a physical move, right? Literally a physical move. Now, we know, according to Hoover Police Department, that one of her internet searches was a one-way ticket from Hoover to Nashville. So leaving home was definitely on her mind, we think, unless she was searching for a bus ticket for somebody else. And there's definitely going to be a physical move for her out of the home. Unfortunately, now, as a result of events, it's probably going to be from home to prison. Just saying. So yeah, if we have the right time of birth. So that's what that is showing. So I'm thinking we've got the right rectified time because of Venus hitting that Aries point, which brings her into contact with the world at large around her. And boy, howdy did it, as well as Neptune being on that ascendant at this time. So let's see what else is going on. Oh, also with progress charts, if this is the case. So let's get into it while we're here. So with the progress charts, we also look for anything else that has changed signs or is making new aspects. Her moon has moved out of Pisces and moved into a conjunction with Jupiter within the last year, couple months, a year, in her progress chart. With the moon Jupiter together and Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius, because Aquarius is a group sign or a friendly sign, very much about friends and groups and social activities, social connections. With that moon Jupiter together in the first house intercepted, to me, and I could be completely wrong because again, this is a rectified chart, this suggests to me that she has recently, in the last few months, made new friends or come into the acquaintanceship of new people and had new people introduced to her social groups. But because it's intercepted, it's hidden. So this may not necessarily be something that's as obvious, as it would be like if you moved to a new neighborhood or joined the chess club or something like that. So these may be people that she's come in contact with or developed relationships or friendships with that's, well, on the down low, not quite so obvious. And again, this totally supports my personal bias that, we've got somebody who grew up in a strict household, who's raised as a nice girl, who's getting involved with, the bad kids, or the bad boys. Ooh, bad boys. So that moon Jupiter together like that within Aquarius with Jupiter retrograde would suggest that, and also intercepted. So I'm telling you, man, I'm really interested to know who helped her and what their story is, because I think there's a lot more there than her just playing a prank and disappearing. So, fans, this is the solar return chart for Carlee Russell from 2020, from her birthday in 2022 to her birthday in 2023, which this window of time absolutely covers this supposed abduction. So this should give us some insight into what to have expected during her birthday year for 22 to 23. And with solar returns, just a little side note, right? You don't see a lot of people online doing public-facing, treatments of these charts using solar returns. A lot of times they're going to go to solar arc directions or progressions, and I'm going to tell you why. Because solar arc directions and progressions are very easy. Solar returns require specific mathematical calculations, which the computer will do for you, thank God. But also interpreting the chart is a lot more complicated. So with solar arc directions and with progressions, we're literally looking for things that come to the angles or things to change signs. It's literally like learning how to do a box step when you're dancing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's that simple, looking at solar arc directions and progressions, because it's only a limited amount of information you can get from those charts, and then only if they rise to prominence, if they're on an angle, or if they change signs, or they've made some kind of really significant aspect to the natal chart. Solar returns, on the other hand, are a whole other complicated mess that takes a long time to learn and master. And even then, sometimes we don't always get as much accurate information as we thought we did, and find out later that there's a lot more that could have been revealed. Anyway, this is why a lot of astrologers you're not going to see using solar returns when they're doing predictive work. Now, here's what I'm going to say before we start this chart. The reason we use solar returns is because solar returns run on time. A difference in the time of birth of like a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes will throw the solar return off completely, and you will get an absolutely invalid chart that will give you nothing but wrong predictions for the year because the time of birth was wrong by minutes. So when you're looking at rectifying a chart, I personally prefer to use the solar and the lunar returns to pinpoint if we've got even close to an accurate time of birth that we have selected for this person. Because if you don't, like just a couple of minutes off on the time of birth, it's going to throw the entire solar return off and you will not get accurate predictions out of it. So I wouldn't use progressions and solar arcs. You can use them to confirm, but ultimately your solar returns, I'm pretty sure, in my experience, are going to be your best tool for like really finding that exact time of birth. And solar returns are complicated and difficult to read because they're not straightforward. So don't be surprised if you get really frustrated trying to figure this stuff out. All right, so now let's take a look at her solar return for her birthday year. Okay, so her solar return, which takes her up to her birthday of this year, which is happening in a few days, it hasn't happened yet, will cover the window of time where she disappeared. So what do we know about her personal year, her personal evolutionary year so far? Well, are you ready for this? So for those of you who are familiar, you will be familiar with the fixed star Algol, right, which is known as Medusa's head. We also know that the fixed star Algol has a lot to do with people losing their ever-loving minds, right, and histrionics and hysteria. It also has to do, sorry, got an itch. It also has to do with female empowerment, right, female power and wealth and greed. Algol is a really complicated star, so it's not just, let's set the record straight here and now, it's not just people losing their ever-loving minds. Although in Carlee's case, this might be the case. So what do we have? We've got her solar return moon conjunct Algol. Yikes, yikes. So we know right off the top that we're looking at a year where there is the possibility that she may like lose her crap, like have a breakdown of some sort. Now, watch this though. That moon conjunct Algol is trining Pluto in the second house. So in this year, because remember, Algol also represents wealth. I don't think she's going to make money having a movie made about her in this incident. But this only covers the year 2022 to 2023. This solar return is coming to an end. So with that moon trining the Pluto, this suggests, and it's coming out of the 6th and 2nd house, this suggests that money would have been on her mind this year. Ways to make more money would have been on her mind. And let's be fair, we all think about that all the time, right? And also, too, she would have been, because it's a trine, moon trining Pluto in that 2nd house, so she would have had the opportunity, or been given the opportunity or the offer to make more money this year, substantially more money. So, and again, this brings me back to other questions about who exactly was she messing around with when she disappeared? Who helped her with this? And what were they up to? So there's that. Wow, that was unexpected. So that's pretty big right there, that Algol, right? That moon conjunct Algol in that 6th house. So she may very well have a nervous breakdown before her birthday on the 22nd, which would not be unexpected given the pressure that she is under right now, because I would collapse. I don't know that I'd have it in me to hold up under all this. So this mental breakdown that is sometimes suggested, especially with the involvement of Pluto, that is sometimes, and certainly crisis in values, right? That is suggested by the moon conjunct Algol still has time to present itself because her birthday is July 22nd. Today is only the 21st. We've got a whole day. Okay. Now, the other thing for this birthday year, look at this. She's got a Mars conjunct Uranus in that 5th house with that north node. So if that were readings for a person, what I would say is that in this birthday year, there is the distinct possibility that they may either have some complicated, unexpected, life-threatening pregnancy issues, which does not seem to be the case here, or the very distinct possibility that they're going to run into a love interest, that is completely different from people they're normally attracted to or exposed to, right? And who could potentially open doors to all new worlds that they've never experienced or seen before, right? Literally a strange man in a strange land. Now, if Carlee Russell, up until this point, has been a nice girl, right, a good girl, raised as a good girl, if that's the case, then this completely foreign agent that she's finding herself attracted to, being the proverbial bad boy or thug life, ex-con, who the hell knows, right? Being the diametric opposite of the way she's grown up and the people she's been around, that would make all kinds of sense. And he certainly would introduce her to worlds that were completely foreign to her before. So again, I want to see who these people are. Just saying, watch your daughters, boys too. Okay. And it gets better, folks. The solar return, remember her birthday to birthday, 2020, 2023, and it's finishing up as we speak. Look at this. The Aries point. She has her midheaven and Imium Coeli, her angles on the Aries point. Again, further emphasizing this rise to public prominence or awareness. This in conjunction, remember, it's not just a single aspect, it's conjunctions within the charts This in conjunction with her natal Venus being conjunct Regalis, which already promises that, indicates that this time when these angles get activated on the Aries point and everything else that's been activated with the Aries point and Regalis at this time of the abduction makes perfect sense that A, it's happening, and B, that we actually have like as close to an accurate time of birth from a rectification as we can get. So, now, but what about next year? Well, boys and girls, this is her personal horoscope for the year 2023 to 2024, and this will take effect July 22nd on her birthday. And can I just tell you, her year ahead is looking pretty crappy. So the thing about it is, if we had read her solar return before this incident, right? I'm not Uri Geller, I'm not God, so there's some things I'm just never going to see, and you're a better Goonie bird than I am if you could have seen this coming. There's never, literally in a million years, I would have never guessed that the chart from the solar return from last year and the solar return, which looks like hell this year, would have been a result of her pulling some stupid hoax at the public's expense and getting into trouble for it. I would have never guessed that, but that's what it is. And here's where we're looking at the fallout in the return, in the solar return. So if you look at the solar return in this that we're seeing here, you're going to see a lot of oppositions. This is a really busy, not happy chart. So the first thing I want you guys to see is, again, in the solar return, which is literally just the passage of planets overhead as we speak during that time period. This is not her natal chart. Venus has, again, in the solar return for next year, or this year coming up, has returned to Regalis, right? So again, this whole thing about being in public prominence. So this business with the abduction and the case and if she's going to go to jail, this is not over. This is not over. And as this plays out through 2024, her next birthday, this is absolutely going to keep her in public eye. Now, the problem, of course, is that Venus is retrograde. And that means that any sympathy or support or extra generous whatever somebody might have given her, she's not getting it. There's a complete lack of sympathy here as part of the fame she's achieving for herself. The other thing I want you guys to see also too, look, she's carrying a Sun-Pluto opposition this year. It's coming out of the 5th and the 11th, and again, she's going to be making all kinds of new friends. Oh boy, is she. That Sun-Pluto opposition in the solar return typically indicates possibly the loss of someone very significant and important to you, somebody who's in a position of authority. It also always, for everybody, represents radical self-transformation. So she has not gone through changes yet, but at the end of this year, at the end of 2024, when we get into the next birthday, she will be a completely, and I mean completely, different person. Whew. If you've ever been through Pluto transits in your solar return or by transit, you know these are not easy transits. These are not fun things, and God bless. Hope she gets through it okay. So it's going to be tough, and doubly so, because look at this. The solar return for 2023 to 2024 for her carries a Mars-Saturn opposition almost exact, and Saturn is retrograde. And it's in the 6th and 12th house. She's going to jail. She's going to jail. If she doesn't end up in a mental institution, she's going to jail. And that I can see in the chart. So the thing about it is, with a Mars-Saturn opposition and a Saturn return, you're not getting any sympathy from anybody. Literally, you made your bed, you lay in it. Zero sympathy. Like, maybe Jesus will forgive her, and she better have a good relationship with Jesus, because Jesus may be the only person that's talking to her after this. With a Mars-Saturn opposition, there is also the element of cruelty with it because of the lack of sympathy or empathy, right? Which isn't, and this is different from sadism. We're not saying sadistic tendencies or urges or things being put on her, as much as it feels sadistic or cruel. Not sadistic, cruel. It feels cruel because where the smallest drop of human kindness would make a difference, that's not even being offered. right? So it's not the deliberate infliction of pain on someone as much as the withholding of kindness and sympathy. And that's what she's going to be dealing with all year long. And again, this comes out of the 6th and 12th house. She's going to have a breakdown. She's going to have a physical breakdown as her earned consequences, karma, earned consequences, fall upon her as a result of all of this. And with Algol conjunct the moon in the last solar return, showing some type of potential hysteria or losing her damn mind, her having a complete and utter breakdown this year moving forward makes all kinds of sense. So we can totally see that as a pattern unfolding. Ugh. This is further compounded by the fact that she's going to have Neptune again, along with that progressed chart. Now she's got Neptune in the solar return coming to the ascendant very, very close. So in about 3 months, 3 to 4 months, Neptune will be dead on the ascendant. The moon opposes that. So let's start with the Moon-Neptune opposition. So the Moon-Neptune opposition, she is confused, raw, delusional, not in her best frame of mind, not thinking clearly, and certainly more sensitive than usual, and also more prone and easily led, because there is a level of vulnerability that comes with this particular aspect, the Moon-Neptune opposition. So allergies and poisons come up prominent during the year. So being hypersensitive to drugs is a form of poisoning, as well as food poisoning and actual, Russian KGB style poisoning. And with the Moon-Neptune opposition, what you also get is a lot of vulnerability. So there's almost this inability to protect oneself, right? Feeling raw, like having no protection whatsoever. Because it's Neptune. Neptune is very open to everything because they're so sensitive. With the moon in Virgo, there's also the suggestion there's some neurotics involved or some neurotic thinking, which makes all kinds of sense given we're looking at that Mars-Saturn opposition with Virgo and Pisces at the same time, and she just came out of a solar return with Algol conjunct the moon. So if she might be mentally healthy before all this happened, but I promise you, I would bet good money on this. Before this is over, by the time we get to her birthday next year, she's going to have a breakdown, physically or mentally or both, because this is this is a hell of a year for anybody to have to go through. So even if she had, here's the thing though, even if she hadn't had this incident as the tipping point that set all of this off, right? It could have been anything. There would have been some triggering circumstance in her life that would have set off this train of, remember these words, developmental challenges. Because all of this, literally, all of this is a map of the developmental challenges she is facing that she needs to get through to become the better version of herself on the other side of this. Okay? So we all go through it. All right. This isn't to say that she's not deserving everything she's getting, but it is also to say, let's not paint her with a tar brush and feathers, like so absolutely completely that we forget that we go through similar things ourselves. And we were all young once, and we were all stupid. And when you're in the company of the wrong people or bad influences, your stupidity just gets worse, right? Anyway, now, also what's interesting is the moon is technically void of, it's technically void of course. It's trining Pluto. It's not actually void of course. But the moon will move to that Aries point, okay, because it will hit 0 Libra a couple of months after this chart kicks in. So this is July, August, September, October. So I'm looking at probably October, November, when the moon gets to 0 Libra, which will sit on that Aries point. And that, again, will bring her right back into the public eye. And because Libra is disposited by that retrograde Venus, again, no sympathy. She's got a hard year ahead. I would not want to be her. I don't want to be her now, but next year is going to be even worse. Okay, so this is a lunar return, and a lunar return is based on the time the moon comes back to its original position at birth by degree and minute and sign as the natal chart. So lunar returns are only good for the month, and every month has 28 to 31 days in it. So each degree in a lunar return is the equivalent of 1 day, right? Each degree or degree point something minutes. So in terms of timing, just figure a degree plus for these things. And the lunar return, like progressions, is only good for things that come up very prominent in the chart. It's a limited amount of information you can get, and primarily its best use is for timing, as well as just a flavor for the month sort of thing. So here's what's interesting about her lunar return. So the first thing, if we do a degree for a day, right? There's only 30 degrees in every sign. There's only 28 to 31 days in a month, so we're figuring about a degree per day for timing, right? The ascendant would come down, and remember it's rectified, so we might be off by a day or two, or a degree or two. So the ascendant comes down to that Jupiter about 2 days after this lunar return kicks in, which is going to take it to July 9th. So Jupiter rules not only the 12th house, because it's the ancient ruler of Pisces, but also here it rules the 8th house, which is money and support from other people, and also debts. So in my mind, I'm curious as to what happened or what was triggered, right, around the 9th to the 10th of this month, which would have been about 2 or 3 days before she vanished off the interstate. So I'm guessing that whatever this plan was that got cooked up and hatched on the 13th probably didn't actually start until like the 9th, right? The 9th of the 10th. And even then, it was, on a lark sort of thing, and intended to, I don't know how that's, we'll find out. But again, money is involved, right? There's some, get rich quick scheme or something involved. Who the hell knows? Maybe she was going to Nashville to get pimped out by her boyfriend, who's wearing an ankle bracelet and under house arrest. I'm just saying, sorry. Okay, so there's that. Now, also in this lunar return, we have the moon and Saturn together. Saturn in Pisces is a hell of a placement, and we're all feeling it. If you're watching and paying attention, you're seeing Saturn in Pisces effect. Saturn is the planet of karma or consequences, deep, spiritual, mega level consequences, right? And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. No second chances. This is the big one, right? For a lot of people, all that misdeeds come into the fore, and now you got to pay for it. And we're seeing it everywhere. And she's taking her natal moon with Saturn. So lunar return Saturn on her moon, her natal moon at this time, also indicates, again, zero sympathy. There is no love lost for this girl whatsoever. The milk of human kindness will be poured down the street next to her before someone will give it to her to quench her thirst. It's not a good placement. And when you carry Saturn on your moon in your lunar return or your solar return, it's an extremely important time for you to hold yourself to a much higher level of accountability and integrity, because if you don't, you're going to get fried, and nobody is going to give you a hand, help pick you up out of the dirt. Everything you do, you're going to have earned. So it's a really important time to have principles, integrity, and really work on having a good character when you're under these auspices, which she should have done, but she did not. And now we're seeing how this plays out with Saturn and Pisces. Now, at the same time, again, remember, we talked about regalis, right? Well, look at this. This is the lunar return Mars going back to her regalis, okay, setting off this chain of events that's making her famous or infamous or notorious. Certainly the most hated woman in the country right now. So again, it's being activated this month. It's being activated this month. Now, as Mars goes through, it will eventually change signs and oppose that really unfortunate Moon-Saturn conjunction. So we're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9 days into this. July 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. July 15th and 16th. Let me write this down. Where are we? So today is the 21st. What happened July 15th or 16th? Right, she turned back up again. She disappeared on the 13th. She was gone for 49 hours, 13, 14, 15. She turned back up again. That's when Mars changed signs and hit that Moon-Saturn opposition in her chart. Oh, Lordy. See, astrology runs on time. And this is why I'm thinking that we've got the correct rectified time of birth, because the timing in the predictive charts is working. Now, some other things that are important in this chart. Look at this. Look at this big honking Pluto. Oh, come back here on the midheaven. Now, remember, she carries in the rectified chart, she carries Pluto on the ascendant, okay, or near the ascendant. In this instance, that Pluto, or that Pluto energy, has come to the midheaven, which makes it very, very visible. And this is like a difference of 5 days from the 7th, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, I'm counting on my fingers. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the 12th. So Pluto and this midheaven would have come together around the 12th. So 12th or 13th, give or take a day. So again, Pluto could suggest abduction, right, and kidnapping. And Pluto can also certainly suggest the criminal underground, right, the nefarious things. And again, I'm still saying, who in the hell did this girl get herself mixed up with that even told her this was a good idea? Things are starting to get really deep. And when you think about it, the Hoover Police Department's been very calm and patient about this. So they clearly need her cooperation to do something. And they can't force that out of her in order for them to do whatever they're trying to do. There must be bigger fish involved. They need her cooperation. So I'm thinking that this Pluto that we're looking at up here, like this is, and on that midheaven in the lunar return, which kicked off on the 12th or 13th when she disappeared, that this absolutely suggests that there's something much, much bigger happening here that we're not aware of. And it has a lot to do with who helped her with this. Yikes. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to show you with the lunar return is, look at this. The sun is conjunct Sirius, right? The fixed star of fame. So again, this, and along with Regalis, this rise to prominence, you know, this very loud elevation into public awareness is absolutely imprinted across all of these charts, which is why I'm saying, yet again, I'm pretty sure we've got the right time of birth here. So Sirius, Sun conjunct Sirius in that third house also would suggest possibly, maybe, again, it's a lunar term, we've got limited information we're getting out of this, you know, becoming well known or famous for your words, right? Which, you know, certainly happened. It was a phone call that has made her famous. Let's take a look at the other charts. Alrighty, so this is her lunar return, or month-to-month, right, for the time period of August 4th to September 23rd, because we are just now heading into, it's the 21st of July today, we're heading into August. So after that lunar return plays out, which it pretty much has at this point, not over yet, but it's certainly the high points it showed us has played out, we're heading into the next one. So with the next lunar return, again, so we're still sitting here with this big, honking, uncomfortable Moon-Saturn conjunction, right, which is nobody's friend. There's nothing pleasant about it. And it is opposing Mercury, right, in the lunar return. So what this suggests to me is legal problems, because the Moon and Saturn is going to pull in the 10th house of authority figures, the 9th house of legal affairs, the 4th house, which is the end of the matter, and also family and home, the 12th house, which has to do with institutions and prisons and consequences, deep karmic consequences, as well as the 5th house, which takes us right back to, because Saturn is the ancient ruler of Aquarius, which takes us right back to who is this girl mixed up with and who helped her, right? So this, and also this Moon-Saturn conjunction is happening in the 5th house. So there's a love or romantic interest, right? Games, the love affairs, things of, you know, childish pursuits, right? Because when you're older, you're not thinking about, you know, love and romance. You're thinking about security. So this 5th house has to do with love affairs, and this being the ancient ruler of Aquarius, I'm wondering, my friends, who this character is she's got herself mixed up in. I'm telling you, I think there's a man involved, or a new group of friends and a man involved that she may have been trying to impress, because she's 20-something. We're all stupid when we're 20-something. You might do well on tests, but when it comes to life, we're still learning, so you can't be smart and learn at the same time. Okay. Uh, so that is what we're looking at for next month. So I expect this all literally to become go to trial, have charges filed, go to trial, all sorts of legal stuff that's literally going to represent the end of the road for her after August 4th. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, is there anything else in here I'm not seeing? No, that's it. I'm doing this literally on the fly, and right now that's what I see. Now, her chart ruler in the lunar return is Venus. Venus is at 20. So her chart ruler, right, in the lunar return is Venus, and Venus is retrograde in Leo in the 11th house. Her friends are going to abandon her. She's not going to have any friends. And it may be that her friends are also going to become extremely problematic at this time as well. So, yeah. Kids, boy, if there was ever a moral lesson to be learned, this is a great story to show your kids. So, upshot, I think there's other people. Obviously, there are other people involved, but I think there's somebody she was hooking up with, a bad boy, um, that was the motivating, encouraging, supportive, planning or assistant in planning strategist in this debacle called an abduction, as well as possibly other people. It may actually be a whole subset of friends that she's made recent acquaintance with. And there was a guy there that she was trying to impress, who may have legal problems, that he does not need this on top of it. And now she is scared because he or they are far more dangerous than the police department and public opinion, or at least in her mind, that's what she sees as far as she can see right now. So there's that. And remember, according to these charts, she's not in her right mind right now, like not at all. And she will have a breakdown, physical, mental, both. She's going to have a breakdown. This is going to get to her. And she's got legal problems coming, for sure. She's definitely going to jail, like for sure. She might get some leniency from the judge, maybe. But even then, like there's no generous kindness coming from anybody. So I'm bringing this chart up again because I want to point out a few things also too. And it's about the moon in Pisces, because people give Pisces and Neptune such a hard rap. I'm so sick of people giving Pisces and Neptune a hard rap. So here's the thing with moon in Pisces, for all you lovely people who carry this, and for those of you who have people you love that carry the moon in Pisces. So the first thing you got to understand about the moon in Pisces is they are it's a very gentle placement. These characters literally would give you the shirt off their back if you're in trouble, right? They tend to pick up strays, human and four-legged. They're also, they're very sensitive. They're very sensitive. They're very easily bullied. They're very easily led, right? They're a bit of escapists. You know, they live in worlds larger than reality in their minds. And typically as a result, Moon and Pisces, they're also not aggressive people. They're just not. And so the thing about it is people are quick to say things about, you know, Pisces and Neptune being dishonest. And listen, here's the truth of the matter, right? When we talk about honesty, right, we've all lied. Little white lies, big whoppers of lies, like outstandingly ridiculous lies. At some point in our life, maybe multiple times, we have told lies. We do that for a number of reasons, anything from self-preservation to entertainment to sparing somebody's feelings, okay? So you cannot, I don't care what horse's ass tells you this, you cannot look at a chart and determine that someone is a liar. What you can do is certainly see what kind of relationship to the truth that they have and how likely and easily they are to bend the truth to suit their whims, desires, or needs. Some people are more prone to playing with the truth like silly putty, or like people with heavy Mercury and Gemini emphasis in their charts, really good at dancing around the truth without actually lying. I never actually said that. There are different ways people will approach the truth when it is inconvenient for them. And that you can see in a chart. What you cannot see is that someone is a de facto liar, especially if the only thing you're using to hold this up is that they've got Pisces or Neptune placements. Right? If that's all you got, that's not enough, all right? And it's not good to run around pointing fingers at people, you know, because of this particular astrological signature, because millions of people also carry that astrological signature. And remember, again, I say it again and again, astrology will not show you the development of a person's character. Integrity is something you develop and choose to develop. Character is something you choose to build for the better or the worse. These are all choices. And that will not show up in a chart because that's not fated. That's destiny. That's what you choose for yourself. That's free will. So I just want to say that about her moon in Pisces, right? She is prone to and easily seduced when it comes to things that appeal to her incredible imagination. And also too with, you know, this is the other thing I want to point out, right? So I don't know what it is with Aquarius people. She has Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius in the 3rd house. Like, she's got some weird daydreams, I'm sure, right? Now, understand, Ron DeSantis, we think, has moon in Aquarius. So there's something about Aquarian energy that can be really, really weird and inexplicable. Like, some things we just don't have a real useful, helpful explanations for. So with Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius in that 3rd house, there's the possibility that she may have some... She may be prone to seizures or seizure-like activity. Certainly there's an issue with the nervous system and how she processes information. So she may have a slight learning disability or something like that. Something to have to do with her vision, her visual acuity, or the way her brain is processing information. You know, maybe she's dyslexic. Certainly something like that. But there's, you know, it's odd. It's odd. Not bad, just odd, right? She is very charming and she's very attractive. And we can see that by Mars in Libra and Mercury and Venus in Leo with Venus on the degree of regalis, right? This is going to make someone a little more charismatic, which is also, when you think about it, what makes sense given that she pulled this stunt. And it wasn't just local Alabama that got caught up in this story. Everybody across the country got caught up in this story, and we all felt, well, many of us felt bad, not all of us. So she has the ability to elicit, or had before now, the ability to elicit tremendous amount of sympathy and support from other people, just very naturally. Of course, it helps she's an attractive young woman, because attractive people always get sympathy more easily than unattractive people. It is a horrible, horrible statement about our superficial views of the world, but, you know, it is what it is. Pretty privilege is what they call it. So she got a lot of pretty privilege in this lifetime, which will not help her when she ends up in court. And also too, so there's this business right here with Saturn in Aries on that 5th house, and that's very personal, and I'm not getting into that. It is significant, but also I'm not getting into that here because it's none of our business and is not germane to this. Well, we're not going to play armchair psychologist today, so we're going to leave that alone. And that's it. And also too, interestingly, if you look, her sun is at 0 Leo, and in one of the videos we talked about 0 degrees of planets at 0 degrees, and in 0 degrees we're literally, and of course you got the 29th degree here. So we are literally learning or starting brand new lifetimes. So there's always this sense of just fresh possibility. Anything's possible. You know, let's go, 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 go kind of thing. They don't see a lot of consequences because there's this burst, this need to go start stuff, because it's like they've been given a second chance on life, which in this particular case, she certainly dropped the ball on. So yeah, so anyway, that's just a quick recap of the natal chart. We're not going to get too much into her natal chart because right now she's getting flamed, like literally pitchforks and torches because of this nonsense that's been pulled. I don't want to add more fuel to that fire, but I did want to say and repeat and affirm again and again and again, we don't know everything. There are other people involved. She's a young girl, you know, and if she was raised as a nice girl or a good girl or in a very strict background, she's absolutely going to be attracted to bad boys, because that's what happens to your daughters when you raise them in strict environments. They go after the worst characters, you know, when they're young and full of hormones and looking for adventure and new lives. So my question is, who are these other people, this other person or these people? And what were they thinking? Because she's not the type to initiate these kinds of things on her own. She is a follower, not a leader. The other thing I just want to point out real quick is with this Mars-Saturn opposition in her particular chart, yeah, no, we're not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. What I will say is that she certainly does attract some characters And you know, she's going to have a lot to learn, a lot to learn. But at the end of the day, the thing to remember, you know, in spite of the fact that she has Sun at 0 Leo, she has Mars in Libra and Moon in Pisces and Saturn in Aries. This combination of things is not somebody who is a natural leader or takes the initiative on things. So my suspicion is whatever this harebrained idea they came up with was probably encouraged, supported, and pushed into existence because of someone else's insistence. Which isn't to say that she could not have said no and jumped off the train at any point. She could have. She's absolutely complicit in this. But in terms of who the mastermind idiot was that thought this was a good idea in the first place and pushed for this to happen, I think this is coming from somebody else. And we need to know who that is. So this has been Ms. Jenny, Primal Girl Wellness, Down to Astrology, and the end of the video. And I apologize, I thought this was going to be shorter. So hopefully this was entertaining for you. You learned something. Let's keep an eye on the case and let's see what happens, because there's more here than meets the eye. And I'm wondering if she's not more afraid of the persons that helped her with this than the police department and public opinion. But either way, her life is over. Her life is over at this point. And she's got to know that. She's got to know that. I feel really bad for her in that regard. She brought it on herself, but at the same time, you know, so now it's just a matter of finding out who else is responsible for this mess and holding them accountable as well. So let's follow along and see what happens.